Welcome back, everybody. You know, every day in America, thousands of children are either abused or neglected. If the moment arises and these children are removed from the homes, they're often left feeling helpless, confused, and scared. And at some point, these children will find themselves in the even more confusing court system. And that's where Williamson County CASA steps in many cases. Joining me now from the organization is Marianne Schroer, CASA's Executive Director, and Danielle McMorran, the Director of Development and Public Relations for Williamson County CASA. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And I had mentioned at the top of the show, the work that you do is extremely important for these young people who are often removed from the home due to no fault of their own. And I want to point out that court-appointed special advocates, they're not therapists, they're not official legal counsel. Volunteers, right?
They are volunteers,
and,
yes.
And so we're talking about people who just have a giving heart and want to help these young people, right, Danielle?
They do.
Explain a little bit about when CASA steps in, because as I mentioned, these kids neglected or abused, removed from the home due to no fault of their own. When does your organization step in?
Well, usually fairly quickly. What happens is if a child comes into the court system, we have two roles actually. One, advocating for the child, but two, being the eyes and ears of the court. So if it's a case where there are lots of people involved in the situation, where it is a case where the child is going to be moved from the home, and the judge knows that number one, the child needs an advocate, and number two, she needs more information, all the information collected into one report, then she'll bring CASA in, or appoint CASA to the case. And so then they interview everybody involved, have a relationship with the child, and bring that information to the court so that the judge has it when she's making her decisions.
Okay. So as I've mentioned too, these are volunteers. Do you have an ongoing list? Because I know you have a fairly large number of cases each year. And when something comes up, it might be tomorrow. You know, it may be something that you need someone immediately. Do you have a large roster of these?
We do. Right now we have 74 volunteers who could take a case, and we do have a limit with the number of cases that they take, just so they don't get overwhelmed, because part of our responsibility is to make sure that that one-on-one time is spent with that child, and there's really a concentrated effort and not to be overwhelmed with cases. So we have about 74. There's some who can't at this time because of, you know, life, take cases, but at the most time the majority can take cases, and it depends on what their load is already. But we are always looking for new volunteers, and we have 2 trainings a year, one in the first part of the year and then one towards the fall. And so that's when we typically train new advocates.
Because I was curious about that. Surely these folks would have to have some training in working with these young people.
Quite a bit, actually. 33 hours of training. We do a background check. We have individual interviews. Because there's a lot of things to consider for us as an agency, but also for somebody who is taking on that responsibility.
Exactly.
They're supervised and supported, but they still, there's a lot of it falls to the advocate, and they work really hard.
And Marianne's really great about walking them through that process beforehand, so they know exactly what they're getting into, and we have them go and, you know, observe court before they even commit to doing it. And a lot of times that's where they say, oh, okay, I didn't realize this is what this was, and it's not for me, you know, but they'll help in another way or something like that after.
Well, and then I understand that unfortunately that there's been a greater need each year for the services of CASA. How many cases would you say that you have on any given year?
Last year we served 330 children in Williamson County, so we just served Williamson County. Numbers keep going up every year. A little over a year ago we had appointed in Williamson County a juvenile court judge for the first time, and I think that may have factored into that to some degree, because she's hearing a lot of those cases. But yes, the numbers continue to rise, and therefore we serve 100%. So we always want to be able to do that, so there's always a need for more advocates.
I see. So do you have to live in Williamson County to be an advocate? there for the...
It's preferable just
Yeah.
because, you know, we have CASAs in the surrounding counties that you can serve, but there are some who don't want to serve in the county that they live in because it's a little bit too close to home, and we work that out where I think we do have one advocate who lives in Davidson County who will volunteer for us just so it's not at their local grocery store,
Right.
you know. But most of our advocates do live in Williamson County.
Okay. I know that a lot of the times that these young people that have been abused or neglected are removed from their home and sometimes placed in foster care. Do you work with these foster parents for the betterment of this child as they go through this whole court thing?
I think one of the things about a CASA advocate that I think is so significant and maybe even sets them apart is that they work with everybody in the child's life. The child is the client. That's the primary person that they're going to work with.
Okay.
But they work with everybody involved in that child's life, whether it be a foster parent, a biological parent, if it's the school, whoever's involved in the child's life.
Medical
So,
professionals,
Yeah.
anyone.
anybody.
Okay, so anything this child might need that has somehow been taken out of their home for whatever reason, then CASA is working to make sure that that happens for them.
Working to make sure that we know every single piece of the puzzle
Wow.
too, because the court is really depending on us to bring back and present, this is exactly what's happening, this is how the child feels in it all, this is what the child sees in it all, and these are the facts. We review every report that's done on the child, any medical report, any kind of documents we have access to, and we make sure that we know every last detail.
Well, do you find that the children open up to the CASA volunteers and are free to sort of
Yeah.
speak from their heart and
Yes.
what's going on in their lives?
I mean, obviously, with the circumstances that they come from, it takes them a little bit to, you know, gather that trust a lot of times. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they're, you know, open to just spilling it right there, but it takes a little bit of trust building up. But I think once they recognize they really are here solely on my behalf, and they recognize that they're able to have a voice in something that they have been voiceless before in the past, and they start to open up and trust. And we have great advocates. We have very trustworthy, wonderful, caring advocates who, a lot of them do have history with working, you know, in the school system or working with children, and so it's a good match.
Wonderful. Well, I know that a lot of times people, Danielle, think that Williamson County would not necessarily be the place where a lot of these children have been neglected, let's say. I think it's the highest income county, you know, in this area. So I think there's a lot of times people don't necessarily see Williamson County as a place where CASA might be. But you're a nonprofit, and your services are very much needed there.
Yes, the good news is that we are from a very affluent county, and they're very generous to nonprofits. I think that's a benefit to CASA. The bad news is that because we're so affluent, sometimes people think we don't have those problems, and we really do. We have a great need. As a matter of fact, we're having a breakfast in the morning where we're working with Department for Children's Services and Tennessee Baptist Children's Home to recruit foster families in Williamson County because we don't have very many. So you're right. I think a lot of people also think that we're funded through the court system or funded through the government, and we're not. So we're dependent upon donations, grants, fundraisers to make the money to keep going.
And like Marianne said, we do have some great partners, especially there's a lot of headquarters in Williamson County, and so we have Jackson and Clark who both have their headquarters in Williamson County who significantly donate, you know, and then we have the United Way who, you know, is a partner with us, and so it is a very supportive community, but it's all about getting out there and finding who's knowledgeable about what you do and ready to support what you do, you know.
Yes,
So.
and I know you have a fundraiser every year, and I had said at the beginning of the show that CASA is like a voice for the voiceless. These kids can't always, you know, articulate or speak for themselves, and so you got your upcoming fundraiser, Voices for Children. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's at the Franklin Theater, the historic Franklin Theater on Main Street. It's May 21st, and we start with a cocktail reception at 6, and then go into the event at 7 and do a little bit of live auction, and then we have the Music City Hitmakers, which it's kind of like a Nashville Songwriters Night, but with a kind of catch, you get the Nashville Symphony, you get players from the Nashville Symphony behind your songwriters playing their songs on strings and all this instruments set up behind them, that I think it's going to be a wonderful event. And those same partners that I talked to you about, Jackson and Clark, were stepped up and were huge presenting sponsors for us at this event. And we raise money through selling tickets to it. We raise money through sponsorships. We have around 50,000 right now through sponsorships, but that's a big, it's our biggest event of the year.
Wow.
And so it's a big deal for us to really bring in the money at that point, because it's one of the main ways we get it.
Absolutely. So if anybody wants to volunteer, maybe wants to help donate to the cause of Williamson County CASA, what's the best way to go about volunteering, and what's the best way if you maybe can't make it to this event? Because, you know, you're a nonprofit and there's always that need for volunteers and money. So what would you recommend?
Well, there are a number of ways. One would be to go on our website, and on our website we actually have applications, so that if you're interested in being a CASA volunteer, you can fill out an application, send it in, call the office. Sometimes people just call the office and say, I want to know more about it, and so we schedule an appointment for them to come in. Tickets also for our event are on sale at the Franklin Theater.
Yes. So if you want to buy tickets to the event, they're going to be $125, which includes a reception that has drinks and food and some other things, some surprises involved. And that's thefranklintheater.com. But if for any other information is our website, WilliamsonCountyCASA.org. And so I would encourage anyone who's interested in volunteering to really start to research what our organization is. There's tons of information on our website, and kind of gather whether that's for them or not. And then donations can actually go through our website as well, and all of our contact information is on there.
Well, thank you both so much for being here, and thank you for the work that you do for those children in Williamson County. We really appreciate all the work you do, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I want to also thank my earlier guests, Courtney Hicks and Steve Ackerson with Harvest Hands, and thank you for watching. I'm Tawanda Coleman, and I'll see you next time on the Plus Side of Nashville.